And welcome to My Game Shelf. Another episode here. We've got Quartermaster General, fast-paced World War II strategy game by Ian Brody. This is a great little World War II game. It's kind of like Risk meets Axis and Allies meets a card strategy game. It's really a clever game. It uses supply as its main mechanic, and I'll show you what that means in a minute. But there's not a ton of pieces. There are a lot of cards. Like I said, it's a card-driven game. But there is a board of the world and the opponents in World War II with pieces and naval and land units represent armies and navies. But it's a great little game, and you can play up. You can have 6 players, you can have 4 players, you can have 2 players. So it's very flexible in that regard, and definitely one I recommend. Let me show you what's inside that box. Okay, so here we've got the game all laid out. You've got the game board here. You've got card decks for each antagonist of the war. Italy, Japan, and Germany. That's the Axis. Then you've got the Soviet Union, the United States, and Great Britain. And I've laid out the Great Britain cards the way you would lay them on the table. And each one comes with pieces. And I have them on the board already to show you where they would be set. And then you've got your rule book, which is a very small rule book. It's not very complicated. The rules are only really, what are they? About 18 pages total, and then you've got examples of play here at the end. It's not complicated. You play cards against cards. You move pieces on the board. Actually, the first couple pages just tells you about the different countries, how many cards they have, how many armies, navies they have, how to play them effectively. Then it gives you the board and shows you how all things are laid out. And then it starts with the rules. So really, no, there's not too many. We're maybe about 8 pages of rules. Nice little rule book. Now, if you look at the board, the game is played in rounds. And let's start over here. You have a game played in rounds, and there are up to 20 rounds you can play. And you move the chevron up each round. And then you have your victory points all around the board. And if you reach 199, you flip your piece over to 100, and you start again. But you move. Here's the Allies piece right here, and here's the Axis, and they move them up along here. This is how you determine the victor. As you can see, all the countries are and territories. It's kind of like Risk in this regard, are on the board. Naval or sea zones, land zones. And there's 2 types of pieces. There's land pieces and naval pieces. That's it. So it's a little bit abstract, but you do get the flavor of World War II. You really do. You got the order of play down here. Here you can see there are straits to pass through. There are different sea zones. We have the British Empire in the tan. We have Germany in the gray. We have the Soviet Union in the red. Italy in the purple. The United States in green. And we have Japan in the sort of light gray. And the pieces are placed on the board. They're not moved around. They're simply placed and taken off and placed and taken off. So you're not all this movement. Movement is not even an issue here. And what you do is you play cards. Now here we have the cards for each country in the game. And you go through your deck. Now you're given 7 cards as your hand. And you have a draw pile and a discard pile. And then you have a status card play and a response card play. And these are cards that are played against other cards. So let's say the Soviet Union played, or the Germans played concentrate on Ukraine card, or whatever it is. The Soviet Union would play a Stalingrad card to counter it, and the Germans could then play another card, etc., etc., and see who gets that. And let's say the Germans win, the Soviets take out their piece and lose it, and the Germans take a piece off the board down here, and they place it on Ukraine, okay? And this is how it works. So you're not moving pieces around a board. You are placing pieces and removing pieces. And you have lines of supply. You can't have any enemy-occupied territory between one piece and another, because if you do, he's out of supply. Not even possible. Same with naval zones. They have to be contiguous with other naval zones. So The British can have, for example, they have here a ship, but they can't, there's no supply unless they have a ship here and here with here. But they do have the Mediterranean, so they can trace supplies to the Mediterranean to the Bay of Bengal. And that's really what it is. It's a very simple game, abstract, but fun to play, moves very quickly. And let me give you an example of some of the cards here. Let's pull the Germans out and I'll show you some interesting cards that you can play. There are event cards, for example. This one, Guns and Butter. Play a build army, a build navy, land battle, or sea battle card from your draw deck, then shuffle your draw deck. Okay, that's a pretty big deal. Then there's a land battle. So you can play this land battle against another, an enemy's land unit. Say, for example, here we are. Let's say the Germans play it against Ukraine. Well, if the Russians don't have a response card appropriate to it, that is removed and the Germans place their unit there. Okay? Now, the stars represent supply centers. So Russia now has only one supply center, not two. They just lost the Ukraine, and the Germans can use that as a supply center now to continue their conquest. So that's important. The stars represent supply centers. That's where your supply is traced from, okay? Another is a sea battle card. You do the same things you do in a land battle. You would have, let's say here you have the Japanese, and the Americans play a sea battle against the Japanese. The Japanese have to remove their carrier, and the naval vessel, and the Americans place one. That's how that works. So you have land battles and sea battles. You have your status cards, and these can be played anytime during the game. You hold on to them till you want to play them. Here is amphibious landings, okay? And it says when you use when you battle a land space using your land battle card, that's when you use it. If the space battled is adjacent to a supplied United States Navy piece, discard the top card of your draw deck and build an army in that space. So that's something you can hold in your status area to play. If you are responding, you can build an army in any supplied territory that you control. There's economic warfare cards, which actually force the opponent to discard their hand, which means they can't use cards now. They have to use their victory points to take action. So it reduces your victory points. It's a form of economic attack. Here's submarines. To use, you must have a piece adjacent to the North Sea. The United Kingdom must discard the top 3 cards of his draw deck, and you gain 1 victory point. So that's one for Germany. There's an event card they can play called, let's see, what is this? This is Plunder. Immediately gain 1 victory point for each German army outside Germany. Once again, we have an economic warfare. We have a build navy, which you can build navy, a status card, and there's different status cards, event cards. Most of them there's just a few different types of cards, but each one has an interesting event that would simulate events in the Second World War. And you play these cards one at a time at each other, or to build an army, build a navy, make a move, place units, build in an empty zone that the enemy doesn't occupy, etc. And it moves, like I said, it moves very quickly. You see all these victory points, and you think, man, it's going to take a long time to play the game. But it's not like that. It moves very rapidly, and you really do get the feel of World War II. I like it because, unlike Axis and Allies, if you've ever played Axis and Allies, it's a long time setup. And let me get up here and show you the whole board from the top. It's not a very big board. It's very small. I'd say it's maybe just over a foot tall and about 2.5 feet across. Folds up very nicely. Very nice quality. A little matte gloss finish here. Cards are really solid, well done. Pieces are wood, or they're some sort of composite material, and a nice glossy manual. They did a great job with this game. They've got one out for the Cold War, which I'd like to get my hands on too. But this is a great little World War II game, and in Axis and Allies, there's so much setup that by the time you set up, now you got to play the game. You just spend an hour setting up. I like Axis and Allies, but it does have a problem there. And then there's all these combat rules. You have to have this fighting against this, shooting against this, roll against this. There's no dice in this game. Combat is simple. You play a battle card. The guy that can't play against it, you take his out, you put yours in. That's how it works. It's very, very simple. You can set this up in 10 minutes or less, get playing immediately, and be done in an hour and a half or so, and you've played World War or less, and you've played World War II. So I highly recommend this game to those of you out there who don't have a lot of time, you love the subject matter, you really want to get down and play some World War II action. Yeah, I totally recommend this one. It is one that's high on my list, and the publisher is, let's see if we can find the publisher of this, Griggling Games. Griggling Games. So see if you can get yourself a copy of this awesome little game. They got great examples to show how battles are done, response cards are played. Anyway, in fact, I wish I had designed this game. This is the kind of game I would have designed. It's just a great, elegant, little, simple, fast-playing game with a lot of flavor, historical flavor. You feel like you're really playing World War II and like your grand strategy level. And it's a lot of fun. So, once again, I give this one 4.5 stars up. 4.5 stars, not quite 5, but definitely 4.5 stars. It's one I highly recommend. Quartermaster General. Okay, that's it for this, my game shelf. Glad you joined me. Please join me again next time.